Hey, this is Sandy.
And Randy.
And we're here on AT Corner.
Being an athletic trainer comes with ups and downs, and we're here to showcase it all.
Join us as we share our world in sports medicine.
Welcome back to another episode of AT Corner. For this episode, AT Corner is taking a spin through the financial district.
I feel like as athletic trainers, that's a touchy subject.
Or it's an unknown subject.
Yeah. But we make it real known, or I should say Matt Shade makes it real known with real life athletic training analogies throughout this episode. So I feel like it makes it pretty understandable, or at least for athletic trainers.
We were really excited to get Matt on the show because he is also an athletic trainer as well. So I feel like he kind of relates pretty well with us.
Yeah, why don't we start by introducing him?
Yes, so Matt graduated from Westchester University in 2005 with a Bachelor's of Science degree in athletic training. He then served as a graduate assistant athletic trainer while completing his master's degree of education at the College of New Jersey in 2006. Matt's career has consisted of working in the interscholastic setting as a certified athletic trainer at New Hope Solebury High School, Delaware County Christian School, and Gwynedd Mercy College. He also worked in the office setting as a physician extender before advancing into administrative roles as a sports medicine supervisor with ATI Physical Therapy and athletic director at Girard College and William Tennant High School. Now Matt serves as a financial representative where he now concentrates his efforts in serving the sports medicine industry across the country.
All right, let's hear from Matt.
Let's do it. So as always, we got to start off with some cryo breakers. What originally motivated you to become an athletic trainer, and how did that lead you to where you are now?
Well, for me, it was about being passionate about sports, but more so it's about working with motivated people and looking at all the fields. I know I wanted to go into healthcare, but when it came down to what type of person I wanted to work with, it was someone that was motivated, and athletes fit that description.
Nice. That's awesome. And motivated people, I think that works pretty well with kind of where you're at now with financial planning. Like usually if you're trying to use those services, you're pretty motivated to increase your financial security.
Definitely. Yeah. And it's with financial planning, it ties a lot into athletic training, working with people on a day-to-day basis. It can't be something that you just touch on, every so often. If you want to see real improvements, you have to be in the gym every day working out physically, but you also have to be checking your balance sheet day in and day out.
I was gonna say it takes a lot of patience, kind of like athletic training does too. That does require patience.
Yes, good days and bad days.
Hey, not every day is the same, right?
That's right. That's right.
So speaking of athletic training, what is your athletic training spirit animal? And this is a modality, rehab tool, tape, brace, etc. Any tool of the trade, the athletic training trade that represents you.
I like to see myself as a Band-Aid. I like to be able to stop the bleeding. All right. I like to be able to stop the bleeding, but then sometimes, there's going to be more care. There's going to be some wound care afterwards. You might have to get some stitches or sutures, but eventually, you'll heal up, but I like to be the first one on the scenes. I like to be able to assess, and then be able to triage and move people in the right direction.
Oh, that one was really unique.
I know. I like that one. That's pretty cool.
No, we definitely haven't gotten that.
Yeah.
And I really like how you put together the first on the scene.
You know what's amazed me is the fact that we've had so many episodes and we don't have a lot of duplicates. I keep getting fascinated with how unique our answers have been so far for that one.
What would you say has been your most unique so far?
I feel like they're so different.
Yeah.
Like some people go out of the box with something they have on them, like their hands, or something they use like in education, like a book. But then some people say like the athletic training kit, like their big med kit.
Okay.
Because it can hold everything, and they're like the storage of the knowledge. And so I feel like there's a lot of different ways that you can take it.
It's been really cool to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
So at AT Corner, we like to pair evidence with experience. So we like to chat about some experience. So let's, do you have any story, experience, or a case study about working with athletic trainers about their finances?
Well, I'll use myself as the example. I have worked with athletic trainers across the country. Currently working with athletic trainers in 23 different states. But the
Nice.
reason why I'm even here today is just my own personal journey. And in 2006, I finished my master's degree. I got married, bought my first house, got my first job, all within 3 months. And from the
Wow.
outside, it looked like my life was on financial track. Everything was, lining up, but it was really beginning of financial derailment because when my wife and I went to buy our first house, I was actually a 1099 athletic trainer. And back in 2006, they were giving mortgages away left and right. It was very easy to qualify. But we got stuck because of my 1099 position, not having 2 years of tax returns. At the age of 23, didn't know what I didn't know. And we got stuck into a 80/20, 100% interest only mortgage for 10 years.
Ooh.
And we were led to believe, hey, you can just refinance in 2 years and you'll be fine. Well, fast forward 2 years, that's 2008. Housing market tanks. So now, am I not only paying 100% interest only? I'm upside down in my mortgage. I can't get out. And as most athletic trainers, we're living paycheck to paycheck. We're trying to get every penny. So I decided to chase the dollar within the profession. I got involved in a startup company. I didn't understand buy sell agreements, operating agreements, but I built 3 high school athletic training contracts. I was in charge of them. And within about 3 months, I woke up on a Friday morning. I didn't have a paycheck. I called the CEO. I was like, hey, I don't know what's going on. I didn't get paid. I checked with my staff. My staff did get paid. But long story short, he was running 2 different companies, robbing Peter to pay Paul. I ended up paying my employees out of my own pocket for about 3 months, went with no income, went further into debt. So at that point, I was left to say, hey, I have to go back, to the traditional setting, became a physician extender. I worked my way up as a sports medicine supervisor, went on to become an athletic director. And then you fast forward 2015. So 6 years had passed. My wife and I, we started a family. We got out of the bad mortgage situation. I was making almost 6 figures. Life was back on track. And then one day I had a phone call. I was on cafeteria duty. And I always joke, if you're signing a contract, say other duties as assigned, make sure cafeteria duty is not on that, that other duties. But picked up the phone. It was a law firm, and a physician I worked for as a physician extender a couple years prior. We were being named in a lawsuit. A patient of ours, I never saw the patient. They were direct admit to the hospital, but they actually passed away, and we were being named in a lawsuit. And all of a sudden, I'm like, am I going to lose everything that I've worked so hard, to get to where I'm today?
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point in time, having been a sports medicine supervisor, having worked with other athletic trainers, realizing every time I went into an HR department with all my job changes, they just hand you an employee handbook and say, here you go, sign up for what you want. And you're just kind of left there to figure it out. And at that point in time, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go and make it my calling to help service athletic trainers.
Wow, that's crazy. That's a long road.
Yeah,
You know,
it
you
was a
scared
journey.
me. You scared me with some of some of those parts of the story.
It's funny, in our programs, in the education program, we don't talk about this stuff. And you might hear or read some things about it, but when it happens in real life, it's you know, you got to be able to navigate it. And I feel have someone in your corner to talk to about it.
Yes, athletic trainers need basically an athletic trainer in their corner sometimes.
Absolutely. And that's why I have you here today.
So, can you explain how exactly you support athletic trainers as they navigate their financial journey?
Yep. So I use a team approach. I don't pretend to be an expert in all the things of financial planning. And so I have a team. I have 2 colleagues who saw my vision and support me. They have a much more extensive experience in the industry. But when you look at financial planning as a whole, there's risk management, there's investments, there's, taxes, 529s, college planning, student loans. There's just so much going on. So I developed a strategy like a sports medicine team. Have a team of specialists. As an athletic trainer, you have your team doc, your shoulder specialist, knee specialist, physical therapist, chiropractor, dentist, the athletic director. So you surround yourself as a team to help provide the best care for your athletes, for your patients. And when it comes to finances, I took that same mentality and said, I want my athletes, right, my clients, to have a team of specialists that with whatever comes up, we can at least direct and coordinate, their plan of care. So it starts with that team approach. And then we also focus heavily on education. It's education first. All of our sessions are complimentary. We will sit down, understand, help build, put all your finances in one spot so you can see and understand all the moving parts of your financial picture. And then we just break it down step by step. What's the biggest red flag? Let's go, let's attack it. Let's see what we can do to make an improvement. And one day at a time, just like getting the gym, training our athletes, it's over time you start to make the progress.
I love how you're talking about the team approach because we really emphasize that in our podcast, but also just as clinicians ourselves. And I think that that's something that athletic trainers can relate to.
Oh, absolutely. So speaking of like identifying those red flags, what are some of those like key mistakes that you see healthcare professionals make when they're thinking about their finances or managing their own finances?
Yeah, starting off with young professionals just getting started, the one thing I don't think we take serious enough is guaranteeing that we have an income. And really, when you look on your overall balance sheet, your most valuable asset is the ability to generate income for yourself. And, we have to protect that. And a lot of us come out of school with student loan debt. I've met with athletic trainers up to $300,000 in student loan debt. They chose private institutions and they're making $45,000 a year. And it's like, well, what if something happens to you? What if you're in a random car accident, or you get, you hear about the cancers nowadays, COVID hit. If something happens, how can you pay back that student loan?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want that financial burden? So really protecting your income from day one. And then that gets easier over time as you build your assets and as you build other, assets on your balance sheet. Now you can afford to have those other setbacks. But initially, if you don't, you can get behind the eight ball right from the start and never be able to catch up.
Mm-hmm.
The other common thing is we have, in a society as a whole, and it almost sets us up behind the eight ball right from the start, but our priorities are out of line. We start with a lifestyle. We're forced to get that house, have the car, the student loan debt, the credit card debt, but we're not trained to pay ourselves first. And it's how do you prioritize on your balance sheet? Hey, let's make sure that we're paying ourselves first, and then we'll worry about paying the financial institutions, the banks and the lenders that we owe money to. And it's really, I call it cash flow hierarchy, and really having a firm understanding of that right from the start and put those habits in place earlier than later, because the later you go, we call it the crowding out effect. It's lifestyle creep. And when you start to look at, these are the things, 5 years out, 10 years out, all of a sudden your priorities shift. And you're like, well, I don't have any room in my budget. I can't do anything. I feel strapped.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the two big pitfalls or red flags that we see especially with young professionals.
It's interesting that you brought up the student loan, because I feel that now that a lot of these programs, now that these programs have switched to master's programs, do you feel like that's only going to make that student debt problem even worse?
Within the profession, yeah, it's an extra year of school, and it's being able to, I'd love to see salary pay raises, but I've been on that side. I've been the administrator, and when you go to the school boards or the governing body above making the decisions, and you look at the budgets, it's hard just to come up with extra money to pay, for the staff. So there has to be some type of shift. What that is, I don't think any of us really know what that is, what that answer is. And if we did, we probably wouldn't be sitting here today. But we'd be retired and be on a warm beach somewhere. But it's I really hope for the sake of the profession that I think the master's degree is important, that continuing education, that extra level to give us that credit within the healthcare industry. But I also think that, advocating for ourselves, continuing to educate others our value and understanding the value, we have to collectively, as a profession, keep plugging away at that.
So, a lot of ATs, including myself, work per diem when they're first getting started. And I know you were talking about that. You were a 1099. And some people don't know what that is compared to a full time job or like a non contract work. I guess you could be full time hours with a 1099. But how does that factor in with saving, retirement, investments versus someone who does have that full time job with benefits, non contract?
Yeah, so a lot of people don't even realize how valuable the group benefits are when you get started. But then also, you have to keep in mind that the group benefits aren't the end all be all. So whether you're
Okay.
W-2 or 1099, there's still going to be gaps within your overall financial plan that you need to fill. With the 1099, it's really understanding your taxes. What can you do to write off? How much are you actually bringing in? What type of tax bracket does that put you in? What
Mm-hmm.
write-offs are you eligible for? And looking at the group benefits that you're not being provided, that's your retirement plan. It could be a 401k or a 403b that most often W-2 employees have. There's usually life insurance, disability insurance, your health insurance. And when you're looking at taking those positions, if it's supplemental income, it's a little bit easier. But if it's your full-time job and you're a 1099, there's a lot of gaps to fill. So sometimes people will look just at the number on paper. They may say, "Hey, I'm getting paid 10,000 more a year to go 1099 than this other job that's a W-2." But when you start to layer in all those additional benefits that you need to put in place for yourself and your family, you could actually be losing money, so to speak, on that.
For the 1099 employees, what would you recommend them to maybe start considering that they have to track? Like, what kind of charges related to their work do you think they should start kind of thinking about?
Yeah, the most common ones, your cell phone. You know,
Mm.
cell phone can be a write off depending on if you have an apartment or if you have a house. If you have an office space, a lot of times you can write off part of that, and then gas mileage on the commutes and anytime that you need to go out. Any business related expenses, so your Wi-Fi, printer, if you're printing off documents at home, storage space, and I would really encourage to meet with a CPA.
Mm-hmm.
And I am not a CPA,
Mm.
but to meet with the CPA because they can find and save you a lot of money. And I'll even say for myself, I started in 2006 working with the CPA, and it makes life so much easier. They'll educate you. I simply keep a folder for myself, and it's like, all right, this is everything I need. I just dump it in there, and at the end of the year, I go and I hand it to my CPA and say, "Here you go." He calls me up
Yep.
about a week later, says, "Hey, your taxes are done." And so no stress, and you're just transferring it, allowing a professional to do it.
Absolutely. But yeah, no, I didn't even consider like maybe like with the Wi-Fi, like you said, like a home office kind of thing, because that is the reality for some ATs. Maybe have like some work at home stuff.
Yep. And I know with COVID, my business, we're 100% virtual now. But with that being said, I've designated space in my house, office space, and you're able to write off some of those expenses.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was going to mention with COVID, there's a lot of things that have gone remote.
Yeah. Yep.
How do you recommend saving when someone lives paycheck to paycheck?
Ooh, that's tough. That's tough to do
I know
sometimes.
that that was something that we had when we first got started. I was 1099.
Yep.
Randy was W-2.
But not the best pay in the world.
No. And we were renting, and we were also trying to save up to buy a house. And so that was
there did come a lot of stress with that.
Can we eat out tonight? No, maybe
Yeah.
next month.
Yes, I remember what happened. We went $30 over our
We
monthly
did.
income that month,
And we spent $30 on dinner. That was not okay.
That almost became the last time we ate out.
Well, first and foremost, I don't believe in financial diets. So, um, but yeah, living the paycheck to paycheck, it's very common and it's hard. And I like to always refer back to like a 401k or a 403b type. The reason why those type of platforms are so successful is because the money never touches your bank account. It gets directed to that retirement account, and you never see it, you never feel it. And again, just making small changes at a time, where it could be $1 a day. Hey, I'm going to try to put that aside. And if I came to you guys and I said, hey guys, can I borrow $5? I'll pay you back. I don't know when, but do you have $5 I can borrow today? Would you guys be able to come up with $5 to offer me? So
yeah, I think so.
That same mentality. It's like, hey, I need $5. I don't need it right now today. I'm going to put it away. I'm going to need it in the future. I'm going to get that $5 back. And, a lot of times when we look at, the big investments and we're looking at buying a house, right? You're trying to you have that number figure, $20,000, 25, whatever your down payment is, these big numbers. It just starts little steps and begins snowballing. And I oftentimes will challenge athletic trainers and say, hey, and this goes back to flipping the cash flow hierarchy. Are you worth 1 hour a day of your work? Do you feel that your tomorrows are warranted for 1 hour today? You can take 7 hours and spend that today however you want. And there's going to be debts, there's going to be taxes, you have your apartment, house, and all that. But if you can take 1 hour today, save it for tomorrow. And we try to instill with all of our clients, you want to be a world-class saver. And in our terms, that's saving 15 to 20% of your income. Where you save that just depends on where you're at in your life stage. Some people, it's in retirement accounts. Some it's just going into their emergency savings, and keeping it liquid. So it all depends on what your needs are, what your goals, concerns are, but making subtle changes. And initially 15 to 20%, some athletic trainers are like, whoa, no, I don't have that. It's like, okay, well, do you have 2%? Okay, let's start there. And then naturally your lifestyle starts to balance out, and you find ways, you just naturally start making shifts. You don't even realize it, but you can still go out and have that dinner. You'll figure out a way to still enjoy those moments, take advantage of those opportunities when they present themselves.
What does that emergency savings look like? Like, how much should you plan to set aside?
All individual specific, and there's no right or wrong number. It's based on the individual. I relate it back to, if you're not going to treat a field hockey ankle sprain the same way you're going to treat a football lineman, right? You have to train them differently. They have different needs. So from a general high level, we usually look at, let's start at getting $1,000 in the bank, right? Have that liquid. And then from there, it's about number of months living expenses that you feel comfortable with. Some people like to have 3 months. Some people like 6 months. Some people like to have a full year of living expenses. COVID really changed the mentality for people, knowing that, hey, I just lost my job, today. Where's my money at? Do I have access to it? What can I do? So we've seen a little bit of a shift in the conservative mindset and keeping stuff a little bit more liquid. But again, that's the preference. But then once you have your foundation and what you're comfortable with, what allows you to sleep at night, that's when we then look to say, okay, let's start some investment strategies for the short, mid, long term. Let's look at tackling the debt. Let's look at building in, making sure all of our protection strategies are as strong as they can be.
So what you're saying is don't dump your income into crypto.
Crypto, it came up. I knew it would.
I was looking
with him
for
always.
I was looking for any way I could just say the word crypto. I have no idea what it is really, but had to throw it in there.
So it's fun. Crypto right now is the big thing. Bitcoin,
of course,
and the NFTs are now becoming another popular investment strategy for people. The funny part with those, and what we say in the planning as we're meeting with people and they're asking about it, we say, look at that as money that if you're willing to go to Vegas, just be prepared. You could lose it all. So whatever you're willing to lose, okay, if you want to play around with that, that's good. The problem is there's no, as of right now, it's not in any part of the regulated part of the industry. So, with investments and, money in the bank, that money's protected. There's insurance on that up to certain amounts. The crypto world, there's no control over it yet. So that's what we advise. We're not going to tell people don't do it, but just be prepared. Like, we can't come back to us and say, hey, you told us to go in a crypto. And it's like, nope, we warned you.
So there we go. We got our crypto in.
You got your answer, Randy.
So for that new ATC, we talked a lot about young professionals. That new ATC finally got, working an adult job. And we kind of already talked about a lot of different tools and advice, but what overall advice would you give that young ATC how to start thinking about building a healthy financial future?
I think having a system and a process in place from the start. And even though it's a new life stage, there's a lot going on, getting your first job, figuring out how to pay bills. And I had an athletic trainer the other day reached out and was like, Matt, I've never had to do taxes before. His first year. He's like, I don't even know where to start with my taxes. I was like, isn't it amazing? It's like, we're not taught this stuff in school. And then all of a sudden, one day you wake up, you're like, oh, my taxes are due in about 2 months. You need to figure that out.
I'm an adult now.
Yeah. But, we set athletic trainers up with, it's called the living balance sheet. It's just a tool. There's a lot of different tools out there. The living balance sheet is what we use, but it allows you to, from day one, you can get all your finances in one place. There's a vault, so you can upload and store all of your important documents and financial forms in one spot so that you stay organized and, you're not scrambling when you're making a financial decision. You can kind of see how it all correlates. So often we get tunnel vision and it's a single, all right, I have student loans. I can throw money at student loans, but you only have so much money coming into your financial wheelhouse. And so you need to be able to see, well, it's actually 19 different domains. It's like, well, how's that going to affect this? Where is my other money going to go? And you can see it. You can sync it up to your any online banking that you do with most financial institutions. And so every 24 hours, your balance sheet is updating. So you can see, am I making progress on savings? Am I making progress on paying my debt? Am I balanced? And you actually have a scorecard and it'll show you, hey, you're red on protection right now. You need to, this is the first red flag, or, hey, you're doing okay on your savings, and so then you can start to prioritize and know, all right, what do I need to do next?
Objective data.
Yes.
We love that.
Yes. I think most ATs can get behind that.
Yes, a lot of. So what we do is we listen to your goals and concerns. We take in the subjective. We allow you to navigate the objective, and then we just guide you along the way.
For the assessment and the plan.
And if it's color coded, I'm sure that helps as well.
Yes, for the visual learners out there.
So we spent a lot of time talking about the young professionals, but what about on the flip side? What about for that seasoned professional who maybe waited a little too long to start maybe thinking about financial future and retirement? What advice would you start giving them? Again,
it's about just getting started. If you put it off, we know the best day to plant a tree was 10 years ago. If you want shade today, you needed to plant that tree 10 years ago, but it's still not too late to plant that tree today and see what it can grow into. We, again, will break down as you start to transition. It's the young professionals kind of by themselves. They don't have a family. And then you transition into the years of having a family and, more complex, you're now responsible. You may have dependents that you're relying on, to pay all their expenses. And then all of a sudden it's, retirement's on the horizon. Like, it's here, what do I do? And it's to have the conversations. And again, just know your numbers going into it and know all right, this is my lifestyle. This is the type of lifestyle that I want. And the tricky part is the accumulation phase is different than the distribution phase. So the accumulation phase is working up to retirement, but you also have to figure out early enough what's going to be my distribution strategies. I know, like, for my parents and that generation, it used to be, hey, throw all your money in investments. Once you hit retirement, you're just going to peel off the interest, 3-4% a year. But now that philosophy with inflation rates and tax rates and all that changing, it's not a certainty. So it's like, what other buckets of money can we start to build? Can we build tax-free buckets? Do we have enough time to start to position the dollars so that in retirement you can pull from different areas, not deplete those assets too quickly? And I actually just posted today, even athletic trainers who have pensions. So I know here in Pennsylvania, some athletic trainers are hired by the school system. New Jersey's a big state, Texas, hired within, but life expectancy is now, projected to be longer. And so for Pennsylvania, they just announced they're going to be having to change the pension payouts. They're going to have to reduce it, especially if you have a spouse or another annuitant on that policy on how you select your pension plan. And now you have to be prepared to make those decisions. It's like, ooh, okay, they're going to be paying out a little bit less to make sure that dollar now lasts another 5 years, 10 years, whatever we need it to. So the game's always changing in finance. And you just have to stay up to speed on it. I can't really think of anything that's a set it and forget it that you can say, hey, from day one, I can just do that and I'm going to be fine. It's constantly changing.
I'm glad you brought up the distribution part, because we always think about putting that money away for retirement, but at a certain point you have to pull it out and use that money. Are there any tools out there that you can use to help estimate how much you should probably pull out when you retire?
So yeah, we can do a lot behind the scenes. We do calculations and we'll show the clients that we meet with, like, hey, this is what it looks like. And even if you build up to a certain amount by, say, 20 years or 30 years, you invest XYZ and you get an estimated rate of return on that money over that time. This is what we can kind of expect it to grow to. And then on the flip side, peeling off X percent that is going to last us so many years. And we can run those calculations. The big things that will impact it, though, are tax rates are a big one. Our current tax laws will be up in 2026, so we could see, just with the state that the country's in and the forgiveness programs, stuff that have been out there, we're anticipating that taxes will probably go up. How much, we don't know. And when you look at, it's pretty neat. We do a presentation, but you look at the historical tax rates at points in history, the top tax bracket was 90%. And this was like back during the Depression and World War II and all that. So the highest income earners were paying 90% in taxes. So the tax rates can really fluctuate. Right now, we're at a great point based on the tax law that was passed in 2017, I believe it was. But you need to start looking at, how do you position your money? Can we create money that we know, okay, it's tax deferred? That's like your 401ks, traditional IRAs. But then can we create tax-free buckets like a Roth IRA? There's actually like cash value life insurance, and there's different products that you can position money so that when it comes time to take those distributions, you don't have to pull all from a taxable bucket. You can pull some from one bucket and to create your annual salary, and you can pull from multiples to help lower, the money that you have to pay to Uncle Sam.
Ooh, interesting. That's cool.
I think going back to what you were saying about everything changing and it's not a lot of just set it and forget it. That's why I think it's so important to work with someone, because that's like, athletic training is my wheelhouse. Finances are not something that I really have developed a lot of time and sat down and really took the time to understand. And so I think it's really important to hear from you, with you and your athletic training background, and how that has really helped you with where you are now, and you can connect with other athletic trainers who are in the same boat as probably like me.
Yeah, and as you were saying that, it also just triggered a thought that with anyone that when you meet with a financial professional, I relate it to going and seeing a doctor. Every doctor that you meet with is going to take your health history. They're going to take your vitals. They're going to do a baseline assessment before they give you any recommendations on a treatment plan. So if you ever meet with a financial professional, just make sure that they understand your full landscape, everything that's going on in your financial world, so that the best recommendation can be made. We don't personally, we don't look at any specific products. We're brokered with over 35 different companies. So to us, it doesn't really matter, if there's an investment strategy, insurance strategy, like whatever, we can place the business where we need to. That's best for you. But, we always have it's like 3 to 4 meetings by the time we get everything compiled, make sure we have a full, clear understanding before we're coming at with like, all right, this is what we think is the best next step for you.
Yeah, I've noticed that for us, like since we started, working with someone with our finances, it's just been easier to understand the whole just saving system and everything like that, but also we've seen a big difference on just how our money's being saved and stuff like that. So it definitely is very beneficial.
And even between Randy and I, like Randy's always worked a single W-2 job, and I've always had like a business on the side or like multiple jobs or contracts or so like between the two of us, even it's a lot different. So it's pretty like you were saying, like taking that history and looking at that full picture, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and and I commend you guys to blend those two different aspects, right, and be able to come together. And everyone has different financial histories and backgrounds, and the way you even view money as a couple. You could be different, ends of the spectrum sometimes, and it's all right. What is the middle ground here? Can we, how can we move forward?
Actually, I do have a question for you. I don't know if this is too broad, but how do you notice a lot of differences between finances with couples versus finances as a single person?
Ooh, that's a good question. So it's, again,
she has a knack for doing that.
Situations specific. Everyone's a little bit different. We find some couples, there's one person within the relationship that handles the money. They know them, and the spouse or the significant other is like, hey, I trust him or her completely, and I don't need to be here. If you just need me to sign something, just let me know where to sign. There's other couples that are both very involved in it, and we always just make sure that whatever we're discussing, presenting about, we always include, if both people are in that conversation, that they both are aware from the start. And we always ask, and if someone's like, nope, this is just for me, my spouse is going to be completely left out of this conversation, then we respect that. And we just deal with the one individual.
No, interesting.
You got any more? You want to?
No, I think it's time for your moment.
For our action item?
It's action time.
Okay.
So I feel like we kind of answered this throughout the episode, but if we could just sum it up, maybe put a bow on it, where do you recommend athletic trainers to start when they're planning for that financial future?
Get organized, put it on paper, and have everything in one folder, one spot, so you know, A, where to find it, and B, what the next step is to take.
I have much respect for that, because before, definitely unorganized with where my finances were. And then when tax time comes and you're trying to scramble to pick everything up and organize it, is difficult. So I feel that.
Seriously, just got to put it all in one place.
Yeah, that makes it so much easier.
Then you can see what you're working with too.
Yeah, that's true. That is nice.
Like that big picture.
Yes.
Yeah, develop
your
a system.
Long-term rehab goal.
Yes. It's the EMR. I relate to the EMR. It's, have it all right there. You can share it with whoever you need to, whenever you need to.
Ooh, I like that.
I love all these athletic training analogies.
I think it makes it easier for everybody.
Oh, totally.
So I love how Matt made everything relatable to how we think as athletic trainers, with just comparing talking to someone as, visiting a physician or visiting another healthcare professional, or using like EMRs, like rehab goals, like using, again, the theme of our podcast basically is the multidisciplinary approach. And, he related it to that as well.
Well, I mean, it really shows because we, as athletic trainers, this is our wheelhouse and this is what we understand and know. And so working with a financial representative, you are going into an area that maybe we're not as well versed in, but you are going, even like we can explain going to the doctor's office, even if you don't have anything wrong, you can still go for a physical.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can still go for a checkup.
Oh, definitely.
And this is all information that I wish I knew when we were first getting started.
Oh, absolutely. And also, kind of like how we advocate for our patients, it's nice to have a financial person to advocate for your finances.
So speaking of actually talking to someone, we do have Matt's personal contact info in the show notes below if you want to get started with someone to work on your finances or even to just start that conversation. Another thing you can find in the show notes is a link to our Facebook group, so you can connect with other professionals, you can answer questions of the week, kind of just interact with others of the AT Corner community. Also, if you guys are new, we do every other episode as education or stories. This one was an education episode, so next week we're going back to our stories. And if you want to submit a story of your experience as an athletic trainer, we do different topics, and you can find the different topics on our Instagram stories. You got anything else, Randy?
Nope, that was perfect. Thank you for helping us showcase athletic training behind the tape. Bye.